operating track, the history here is just phenomenal.
We are in Slinger, Wisconsin, about 30 minutes northwest of the city of Milwaukee at the Slinger Super Speedway, and it's time for round number 7 of the 2014 Mid-American Stock Car Series schedule. It promises to be an interesting contrast in styles. On one hand, you have local drivers, Ryan Gutnick, Jimmy Evans, and Kenny Houston, drivers who have thousands and thousands of laps at this high bank quarter-mile oval. On the other side, you have Mid-American Stock Car Series touring drivers like Lyle Nowak, Jeremy Spoonmore, and last year's Rookie of the Year, Dan Gilster, drivers who have little to no experience here at Slinger. I'm Dean Strom. I'll be covering all the action for you from pit road, and I'll introduce you to tonight's winners.
Welcome to Slinger Super Speedway and Sopwith TV's coverage of the Mid-American Stock Car Series. Hello, everybody. I'm Stephen Cox. Let's take a look back at the day so far and how things will shake out. Qualifications, 2 laps each. The top 16 have already transferred into the A main. That's followed by heat races that took place earlier, and also a B main that transferred 3 more into the A main. The 20th and final position in the A main was determined as a points provisional. And then, of course, 48 laps yet to come. That's our main event for the evening. But first of all, we need to look backward, not forward, and take a look at heat race number 1, the first one that ran earlier in the day. Some very warm sunshine made the track very slick, very greasy for the 66 of Chris Story, who started on the pole, the 87 of Eric Lingford just to his outside, and you're on board with Brad Keith in the 48. Just in front of him is that bright green and white number 47 of Kenny Houston, a 2-time track champion here at Slinger. And these guys are really, really fast on this high-banked quarter-mile track that really rewards aggressive driving. The 87 of Eric Lingford looked pretty good on the outside. Chris Story seemed to be losing the bite. He just didn't have enough forward bite coming off the corners. Let's watch him going into turn 3 and 4. Gets the car sideways, and the 87 takes home the victory.
Eric from the outside of row number 1 to victory lane in heat number 1. You made that outside lane work, didn't you?
Yeah, we sure did, especially coming off of no practice, engine problems and brake problems, and we definitely got to tighten it up a little bit and get our brakes working a little better so we can drive in harder.
All right, sounds good. Eric Lingford, the winner of heat race number 1.
In the heat races, everybody wants to take care of their car because it's for cash and for series points. If you're serious about the championship, you need to do well in the heat races, but you can't tear up your car for the main event. The 88 of Ken Calhoun starts on the pole of heat race number 2. The 101 of Jimmy Evans, one of the local drivers, to the outside, but there comes the 95. That's Jeremy Spoonmore in the red and white number 95, looking to the inside, trying to take the lead going into turns 3 and 4. He gets to the inside, comes out of 4 to find the white flag waving. He's got 1 lap to try to hold off the 54 of Mark Plur, always a strong runner, especially here at Slinger. Mark looks to the inside, but it's going to be too little too late, and Jeremy Spoonmore will take home the victory.
Jeremy Spoonmore picks up heat race number 2. Tell us about the pass for the lead off of corner number 2.
Oh, it wasn't too bad. We just drove it in there. You know, it stuck pretty well, and we made a good run. Had good forward bite on exit, and we were able to take the lead.
Jeremy Spoonmore picks up the win in heat race number 2.
2 heat races down, just 1 to go. Here's a look at the starting field to the inside. You see the 98, that's Greg Beebe in that beautiful silver and black car. The 69 to the inside, that's Dennis Eichhorst trying to take the lead. You see the 80 of Dusty Krebs in there as well, and the 132, that bright red machine. That is Scott Dunning, who had a couple of really nice runs earlier in the year. You see Eichhorst trying to hold off Scott Dunning, who's now moved into second place past Dusty Krebs. He looks to the inside coming out of turn number 4. Just a couple of laps left in the race, and the 132 of Scott Dunning will take over the lead on the backstretch, and now the 80 of Dusty Krebs will look to the inside of Eichhorst and take over second place. The white flag falls for Scott Dunning as he goes into turn 1 and 2. He really seems to be stretching it out. Krebs is quick, but not quick enough, and we'll go down to the Hoosier Tire victory lane.
Scott, you picked up your first feature, or I should say your first heat race win of the season here tonight. How's it feel?
Oh, it's great. I love this place, always have, always will. We started out slow today. I'm so excited right now. I love this place. This car is awesome. I'm ready to go.
And Scott Dunning picks up the win. He raced number 3.
I love to see Scott in victory lane. He is always so animated and has so much fun. 3 heats under our belts, 16 places locked into the A main. 3 more will be established when we come back for the B main. Mid-American Stock Car Racing is brought to you by Impact, by Mastercraft Safety, and by Hoosier Racing Tire. Be sure to stop by the souvenir stand and pick up a nice brightly colored t-shirt from the world's fastest quarter mile when you visit Slinger Super Speedway in Slinger, Wisconsin. We're just about 45 minutes north and a little bit west of the Milwaukee area. Now let's look back earlier today at a highlight package from the B main. Now remember, you had to finish in the top 3 if you wanted to make it into the A main. Only the top 3 were going to transfer, and the 29 of Mike Borchardt takes the early lead, but the 101 of Jimmy Evans is going to get a really hard time on the bottom. He's not going to give up the bottom of the racetrack. You kind of want to drift up just a touch between 1 and 2. Squeeze as much racetrack away as you can, and there Borchardt gets pushed up the top on the high side of the track. And not only does that give the lead to Jimmy Evans, but the 95 of Jeremy Spoonmore sees some daylight at the bottom of the racetrack. He'll try to exploit it as well. The 66 of Chris Story, if he can jump on the tail of Spoonmore and get all the way through there, he may pick up a top 3 position, but he's going to be clipped going into turn 1 and 2. Chris Story sees his evening go up in smoke. You also see the 62, that black 62 of Scott Knoll in the background involved in that crash. Here it is again. 66, that's Chris Story looking for 3rd place and a berth in the A main, and that will likely send him to the back of the field and end his night early. So the field realigns. We go back to green flag racing. Jimmy Evans leads the field down into turn number 1. The 95 of Jeremy Spoonmore makes a game of it on the outside, but it's too little too late.
Jimmy, you pick up the win in the last chance qualifier. How'd you hold them off?
Starting on the pole helped a lot here, and Jerry's a fast guy there. We did a good job. We held him off, and we made the main.
Jimmy Evans is in the main event via the last chance qualifier.
All that happened early in the day, but the here and the now is the Krebs Trucking 48 main event. We're going to take a look at the starting field right now. Starting up front on the pole, the 54 of Mark Pleur, always a strong runner and a former winner here in the Mid-American Stock Car Series. Kenny Justin, a 2-time champion here at this racetrack. Outside row 1, Brian Holtz is inside row 2 alongside Lyle Nowak, a former series champion. And there's the 54s. We continue looking at the rest of the starting field at the top of your screen. Mark Pleur is pulling off the racetrack. That's completely bizarre. That's the first time I've ever seen a pole sitter simply leave the track. He had to have some kind of serious mechanical problem, because Mark Pleur always brings well-prepared race cars out here ready to go. That means the 38 of Brian Holtz will move forward in the field and take over the pole position, with the 47 of Kenny Justin starting on the outside. And again, the rest of the starting grid is scrolling on the top of your screen as we go green, and the 47 of Kenny Justin will try his best to take the lead on the high side. The 23 of Dan Gilster gets clipped from behind and drops down to the inside going into turn number 3. That'll bump Dan way back in the field. Meanwhile, the 32 of Lyle Nowak is moving forward as well. And let's go down to Dean Strom and find out what on earth happened to Mark Pleur.
Mark Pleur on the warm-up laps. What happened?
Something in the motor just broke. The first 2 laps was okay, and then it got a big miss. It started shaking. It's not running right. One of the headers was glowing. I don't know if we broke a rock arm or something, but it ain't firing right, so I just pulled it off rather than go out there and just get in everybody's way.
That's Mark Pleur out early in this main event. In fact, out on the hot laps.
Thanks, Dean. The 47 of Kenny Justin really putting on a clinic out here. The 38 of Brian Holtz right on his tail, and these two have taken off and pretty much left everybody right now. They are the class of the field with about a 10 or 15 car length lead over that bright yellow number 32 of Lyle Nowak. Kenny Justin with a lot of wins and just hundreds and possibly thousands of laps here at this racetrack. He knows his way around this peculiar, unique high bank speedway. And look, we've got a crash coming out of turn 4, and that is the 87 of Eric Langford upside down along the front stretch. That is unbelievable. Eric slid on his top out of turn 4 all the way down into turn number 1. The red flag comes out, all cars come to a stop, and the safety crews are all over it as Eric starts to climb out the driver's side window, and it's our chance to go down, let him get his helmet off, and he's going to talk with Dean Strom. Let's find out what happened, Dean.
Eric Langford, that was a heck of a ride. What happened?
I'm not quite sure, but I think there's some fluid on the track. Slipped up, hit the wall, rode it up. I don't know what happened around me with the other cars, but good thing I practiced this getting out of the car upside down on a rotisserie in the shop one time.
All right, that is Eric Langford. He goes for a wild ride tonight. Picked up a feature, or I should say a heat race win earlier.
Well, we start off with some major fireworks here at Slinger Super Speedway in the opening laps of the Krebs Trucking 48. Your top 10 is Kenny Justin, Brian Holtz, Lyle Nowak, and the rest of the field. We're coming back to Slinger in just a moment. Mid-American Stock Car Racing is brought to you by McGunegill Engine Performance, the power to win, and by Bochette Timepieces, high-grade, quality-made timepieces. Well, after the spectacular flip of the 87 of Eric Langford, the field has realigned, and we have one lap to go, and we will go back to the green flag. Kenny Justin in the green and white number 47 is on the pole. He'll catch up to the 38 here in just a moment. They'll even up as they come out of turn 4. That blue 38, that is Brian Holtz. They both run very, very well. Been the class of the field so far tonight, and the green flag comes back out. We're racing again at Slinger. The 32 of Lyle Nowak goes to the bottom side of the blue 38. The 48 of Brad Keith is involved there as well. Now let's jump on board and take a look with Kenny Justin at how dark the track gets as you go through turns 1 and 2. That is not just the lighting and spaces between the lights here at the racetrack. It's also the dark black on the asphalt. That's just rubber laid down on the asphalt. And trouble again. That's the 95 of Jeremy Spoonmore colliding with the 74 of Rick Tackman Jr. Those two got together, it looked like, at the entry of turn number 3. Now let's jump back and look at the onboard camera of Cody Erdman for a better view. Look at the white Acorn cabinetry race car on the right side of your screen, and the 74 gets together right there at the entry of turn number 3. Hard to lay that at anybody's feet. That may have just been a spotter issue with one of the two cars. Hard to tell which, but it's enough to bring out the yellow here at Slinger. While the field realigns and gets ready to go green, let's take a moment and look at some track history with Dean Strom and the impact by Mastercraft Minute.
The hills of the Kettle Moraine region of Wisconsin have been alive with the sound of race engines for more than 65 years. The Slinger Super Speedway started as a humble dirt track. 33 degrees of banking and pavement were added prior to the 1974 race season, and today you have one of the most successful short tracks in all of America. Slinger was the weekly stomping grounds for Matt Kenseth, Dick Trickle, Alan Kulwicki, Robbie Reiser, and Rich Bickle before they moved south and achieved NASCAR success. Slinger Speedway also boasts the distinction of being the fastest quarter mile in the world. You see, a few years ago, a winged sprint car went around this track in under 10 seconds.
As we get ready to go back to green flag racing, the commitment cone is out. There goes the pace car. You see Kenny Justin, Lyle Nowak, most of the cars here going to the inside. And there is the 38 of Jeff Holtz. He is the first car to choose the outside lane. Now that jumps him past 3 or 4 cars and allows him to get past him kind of free of charge. In fact, he's only got one guy left that he's got to beat for the lead, and that's Kenny Justin. The green flag comes back out, and that is the magic of the commitment cone. That's completely legal for Jeff to pass those cars under yellow simply because he chose his lane better than his competitors. Kenny Houston always fast here at Slinger Super Speedway. He's taken the inside. He's going to be really tough to beat, but the 38 of Jeff Holtz is going to give it another try. They go side by side into turn 3 and 4. Kenny Houston has so many laps at this racetrack. He's the perfect guy to ask whether or not that experience is going to help.
Kenny, a two-time Slinger Super Speedway track champion. Now the Mid-American Stock Car Series comes to your home track. Does that experience give you an advantage?
Yeah, I'd like to say so. This is kind of one of them tracks that you got to run, get familiar with. I've always had good luck here, so I hear people say it's difficult to run it, but it's been real good to me. So, corner 1 and 2, you want to stay down and drift up, and corner 3 and 4, I found the best hug the bottom and stay on the bottom coming off. You don't need to drift up real high.
You know, they changed this track, though, in the offseason, Dean, and that's something we really need to talk about. They ground the track down, and, of course, this track was very, very rough for a lot of years. So I wonder, is that a strike against the guys who have worked for so long to figure this track out?
It might be a strike against those guys, but it has ended up helping them out. They've found that they can go to the outside and actually race hard on the outside. It used to be that they would dive down to the bottom to try to get to the inside. Now they can race on the outside, and one thing they learned, it took them a few weeks, but they learned that on the restart, they might actually choose the outside lane.
Well, that's exactly what the 38J of Jeff Holtz has done, and you can see him making good on it. He has taken the lead, and one thing that Jeff Holtz can just do better than anybody else on the racetrack, and really for most of the year, he's got more forward bite coming off the corners than the rest of the field. He is hanging it around the bottom line here at Slinger Super Speedway. Kenny Houston, Brad Keith, Lyle Nowak, and Brian Holtz all giving chase. Back in just a moment. Mid-American Stock Car Racing is brought to you by Impact, by Mastercraft Safety, and by Hoosier Racing Tire. It has been a fun day here at Slinger Super Speedway, where the Mid-American Stock Car Series is now down to the final laps of the Krebs Trucking 48, with the 38J of Jeff Holtz doing what he has done so well all year long. That's leading races from the bottom side of the racetrack. He won at Milwaukee running the bottom. He's fast everywhere he goes. He's fast again here tonight. And trying to chase him down in second place, that is Kenny Houston running very strongly in the 47. Now, here comes the 48. That is Brad Keith as well. He is from Slinger, Wisconsin, although he is primarily a touring series driver. And he is coming up on the outside and really making a game for it, trying to chase down Jeff Holtz side by side in turn 4, and the 38 gets sideways. And Dean, these are guys with experience. How hard is it for everybody else?
In the past, the Slinger Speedway is a hard place for a guy to just come in one off and do well. We've seen it, but we haven't seen a lot of it. This is the only track in this area that has banked anywhere near this degree. 33-degree banking here at the Slinger Super Speedway. It's a quarter mile. Things can happen really quick. We see guys that on a weekly basis will have their cars set up for just this one track. They might not tour around at all. They really get dialed in here, and they really, really, really can be hard to beat here at Slinger.
That's a luxury that Brad Keith does not have. Still, he has taken over second place. Kenny Houston drops to third, and now it's a battle with one lap to go. You've got the 38 of Jeff Holtz going into turn number 3. Brad Keith is closing the distance, but he's not going to make it in time. Jeff Holtz drops the window net, puts his hand out in victory. The checkered flag comes out for his third victory of the season. So Kenny Houston finishes in third place, but Brad Keith can only wonder what might have happened if he had had just a couple more laps to try to mix it up with Jeff Holtz, because he was coming on very, very strong. The 38 car comes to a stop down by the Hoosier Tire victory lane, where Jeff Holtz will take his helmet off and talk with our own Dean Strom.
Jeff Holtz out of the car after a hard-fought victory here at the Slinger Super Speedway. Jeff, your third win on the season. How's it feel?
Feels great. Glad it's over. Kenny Houston sure gave me the run for the money there. I didn't know if I was going to get him on the outside, but just had to hang in there, and hopefully the tires hang in there. And once I got clear, it was a load off my shoulders, I'll tell you that.
Talk about that pass on the outside. It seemed to me like you were out there forever. How did it feel inside that cockpit of the 38?
I really didn't want to go to the outside because I knew it was going to be tough, but I bet you I was out there for 10, 15 laps, but he gave me plenty of room. I got to thank him, you know. He's a good racer. He's won here many times, but I just had enough to get by him, and that was a lot of fun.
That's Jeff Holtz. He is your championship point leader on the Mid-American Stock Car Series and takes the inaugural Mid-American Stock Car Series race at the Slinger Super Speedway. Brad Keith, a second place finish at your home racetrack. Are you happy or are you disappointed?
I don't know. I'm happy and disappointed. The way our season's been going, it's good to finish second and actually finish. And then at the same point, I was really hoping to win today, but the car's in one piece, and second place, I'll take that. I thought maybe we could have something for him, but we just didn't have enough forward bite. We were just a little loose off. Hard to get to him. He was really good off the corner, and we were just not quite so good.
That's Brad Keith. He comes home with a solid runner-up second place finish tonight at Slinger. Kenny Justin, you come home with a third place finish after leading for a while. Take us through your race.
Yeah, the car was good. I don't know much more than that. I mean, didn't have a car for Jeff by any means. He was fast, real fast.
Jeff Holtz got by you on the outside. There was some hard racing there between you and he for the point.
Yeah, I gave him plenty of room, same way he would give me. So it was fun. It was fun racing with him. He's fair, he's clean, and I never have to worry about him.
That's Kenny Justin. He comes home third tonight.
Boy, what a great run for Kenny. Good to see him down in the Hoosier Tire victory circle. Jeff Holtz, your winner, Brad Keith, Kenny Justin. Ryan Gutnick ran a fantastic race, fighting fluid leakage out of that car for much of the night. Lyle Nowak, Cody Erdman, and Dan Gilster, followed by Scott Dunning, Jeremy Spoonmore, and Eric Pierce with a solid top 10 finish. And what a fun day it was. Chris Story got turned around. The 87 goes for a big ride on his top down the front stretch. It's the greatest racing you're ever going to see, and we'll bring you more of it next time on Sopwith TV.